architect and a light artist. I want to show you a couple of photos that I took around my neighborhood. These photos show daily scenes in our daily lives at night, ranging from a scene at a night market, a pasar malam, a mama, and even a scene from my home washroom. What do all these photos have in common? For me, it's the usage of light tubes. Light tubes have the capability to be more than a functional product. For me, I'm interested to give new meanings into an ordinary object. Light is an efficient, an affordable, and a universal method to define a space. But what is light art? This is an artwork by Dane Flavin, an American light artist, called The Diagonal of May 25. He took a commercial fluorescent tube, but instead of placing it on the ceiling, he placed it on the wall and then rotated it at 45 degrees. What does this mean? This immediately changes the way we perceive an ordinary light fitting, and this is light art. When I first saw that light piece, I was immediately captivated. I was studying in Europe for a couple of years, and being able to see that light piece completely changed my mind towards ordinary objects. I returned back to Malaysia feeling very inspired, and I wrote in for a proposal to the Kuala Lumpur Performing Arts Center for a light sculpture. But I had no training in electrical or electronic wiring whatsoever, and I really needed help. So I looked up a couple of lighting companies online in Malaysia and managed to find one that was interested to collaborate with me. But I had no money, no budget. So like a true Chinaman, I asked for free LED tubes in return for free publicity. Win. These gave birth to my first ever light sculpture called Awan, which means cloud in the Malay language. This piece was made at 5 feet high, together with 2 friends and our bare hands. It was made completely in my living room. So I don't think my parents have seen this before, so this is what I've been doing at home. We had to make it at 5 feet because that was the only chance it could fit into my car because we couldn't even afford a lorry. But making this first light sculpture was interesting because it taught me a lot about the fundamentals behind making a simple light sculpture. 2 art curators then saw this work and invited me to Butterworth in Penang. For you guys who might not have known Butterworth, Butterworth is an industrial town, a very quiet town, but it was used to be Asia's Silicon Valley. But it's also known as the lesser-known sister to Georgetown Island. So what does art mean for Butterworth? There was this abandoned, unfinished 5-story building that's owned by a developer. They developed this entire new area in Butterworth, and they wanted to get some traction. They wanted to introduce this new area to people. They wanted to draw attention. So they hired these 2 art curators to look for a suitable artwork for this building. The art curators thought that the light sculptures that I do might be interesting in this. But for me, moving from a 5-foot sculpture to a 5-story building, that's crazy, But it's everyone's dream, as an architect and as an artist, to have a good budget and also complete freedom to work on an abandoned building. That's really a dream come true. So I decided to take up the challenge and just went for it. But we needed some inspiration. So together with the art curators, we went one day, really late at night, midnight, to the building. We brought a couple of LED strips and then just kind of tested it at different angles, kind of drawing in space. We had no sketchbook, nothing. We were just there on the spot. And then it hit me. Why not do something as big, if not bigger, than the building? But then we create an illusion. So we play with illusion, that it looks actually 5 stories high, but in reality, it doesn't. So this gave birth to the star, which was inspired by a dodecahedron, a 12-sided geometry. Each line represents a steel cable and also a waterproof LED strip. So you can see here, they look like they penetrate through the structure of the building, but in reality, it doesn't. You step afar, you see this entire 5-story star, but if you step up close, you realize that the cables actually start from ground and stop on the ceiling on every floor. With that, we had to mark almost 1,000 points accurately throughout the entire structure of the building. So this was like crazy, you know. But the client said, let's just do it, you know. Here's the money, go do it. I was like, yeah, sure. So I had to gather some of my friends and also the best contractors that I can find in, I guess, a quiet town in Butterworth. When I showed this idea to them, they were like, are you crazy? Like, what is this? You know, like, I said, yeah, it's a star in the building. So that's really what it is, yeah. So we gathered the best electricians, the best contractors that we could find in mainland Penang, you know. We made models, we drew drawings, you know, treating it as an architectural project. So together with a group of almost like 20, 25 people, contractors, electricians, engineers, we weaved throughout the building like spiders, you know, bringing steel cables and also LED strips, creating kind of complex forms. Certain points penetrate out of the building. Certain points shoot out to the ground across. I wanted this piece to not just exist in that building, you know. I wanted it to be part of the urban fabric, part of the town. During the day, the thinness of the structure makes it almost invisible. You don't even see it at night, during the day. So during the 2 months of construction, it rained almost every day. And just prior to the launch, the opening night, we couldn't have it rain because the Chief Minister of Penang was meant to come officiate it, and we really couldn't have it rain. So one auntie just came up to us randomly and said, try this. Get a satay steak, put an onion, a clove of garlic, and the longest, reddest chili you can find, in that order, and then put it on the highest point of the building, which is now the highest point of the star. And she said, SI, sure can. And I was like, you crazy woman. So we just did it. We had no choice, nothing to lose. And we did it. And after weeks of raining, for the first time, it was clear skies that night. So, thanks. Hundreds of people came throughout Malaysia just to witness this moment. As you can see, certain points penetrate and float out from the building. People found their own ways to dance, to interact, to go under, to touch, in ways that I've never really envisioned this structure to be. For me, I wanted to do something that was visually impactful, but people found new meanings to interact with it. You know, you can see it from afar. You can go up to every floor and go up really up close to it. So the installation successfully gave new life to this building. And it has also put Butterworth on the world map. Shortly after the installation, Star was nominated for an international art award in Sydney called the Media Architecture Biennale, alongside two of my biggest inspiration in arts, you know, Dan Ruskat and Bruce Munro, who are, you know, really iconic light artists in Europe. We didn't win, but that wasn't the whole point, you know. The whole point was that we could make art, or we can do something special in a place that no one has heard before, but still make a global impact. The next installation then brought me down south to Singapore. I was invited to participate in Asia's first light festival, iLight Marina Bay, on Marina Bay in Singapore. I wanted to do something that really contrasts the concrete jungle of Singapore. And I did some research and found out that Singapore has the highest number of lightning strikes in the world, an average of 184 times a year, which is really interesting. I then stumbled upon this artwork by this artist, Walter de Maria. He placed 400 stainless steel rods across the open desert of New Mexico, and then waited for lightning to strike. So I was very interested in this idea of mixing man-made elements with natural elements, with nature. Lightning is something that we are always very scared of. You know, it's a natural phenomenon, but we always associate fear with it. How do we humanize it? How do we make it more down to earth? You know, can we create our own lightning strikes? So I came up with this proposal called Bolt, which is basically a 360-degree interactive light installation that allows you to become God for a split second. You can create your own lightning. So we created a structure that looked really lightweight, almost invisible, like the star. But it has to be sturdy because it had to withstand the strong wind loads by the sea in Marina Bay. We also made it in KL and then shipped it to Singapore, so it has to be really lightweight and easy to assemble. It was great because we received the grant in Singapore dollars, but we made it in KL, so we had lots to play with. But we made a model out of lollipop sticks because, we didn't want to spend money on models. But around it, you can see there are 8 mini computers. I worked with a group of computer engineers and also electronic engineers to devise a system that allows this sculpture to be responsive. So you can create your own lightning. So merging a tech and also sensors, we created a system that allows people to create their own lightning bolts with a sense of touch. We also worked with a metal fabricator to create a structure that is easily flat packed. So this was how it was shipped to Singapore. And then on site, we assembled it with a group of some of my friends who are working in Singapore, actually most of my friends who are working in Singapore, to set this up in under 2 hours. So at night, this structure comes to life. From afar, you would see bolts of lightning happening on the ground level. And I raised it high enough so that people can actually walk through it. It's not something that you just see from afar, it's a space. For me, I wanted to show that you can experience it in so many different angles, not just from afar, from within too. I also wanted to ignite the spark. Because of this light, people tend to come close to it. And because of that, strangers have this new connection, this spark that is ignited amongst them. Then after the festival, the installation was brought back and now installed permanently in Bangsar, in this place called APW, which used to be a printing factory. So light can be more than a visual impact. Light has the potential to bring us to places that we never knew that we would be at night. And I wanted that. I wanted light to shape the city. The next project I'm going to share is a project that brought me all the way north to Bangkok, Thailand, the land of smiles. In every project, I like to experiment with something new. I was invited by BACC, Bangkok Arts and Culture Center, to create an installation that impact the cities with a bunch of architects and also urban planners. I was very interested with the idea of an emoji. In today's world, we talk very little with words and mostly with emojis. This 21st century language can sometimes speak louder than words. For me, can light be also a form of language, a universal language? Light comes in different intensity, dim to bright. Dim can represent certain emotions, sad, fear, negativity, whereas bright, intense flicker can mean happiness, excitement, positivity. What does this mean? I looked at elements in the city. This is a notice board. Sometimes probably my parents only would know. People of our generation might not have seen this before because of social media. We don't interact physically anymore. We don't voice our opinions about our neighborhoods anymore. So how does this work? For example, if you have an opinion about a city, for example, does Bangkok have enough trees or have enough parks? Keep that question in mind. With an app that we designed, voice that opinion to a digital board. And then this digital board would have a field of light pixels and also touch sensors, which then project these questions. People are then invited to engage with it, to answer based on the light intensity that they want. We worked with a group of students, computer engineering students, and also electronic engineering students to create a system that also gathers these data, so we could use this data to improve the city. This installation was then placed in Siam Center, which is a very popular shopping mall in the heart of Bangkok, for a month, and we gathered hundreds of questions, and also feedbacks, from throughout that whole month. We encouraged as many people to come up, to contribute, to talk about your city. In the end, what we had was more than just this data that we can use to improve the city. We had these beautiful collages of light pixels that is unique to each question that was posted. So in that sense, people actually made art and also at the same time contribute to shaping their cities, which is basically the entire goal of this proposal. So light can be a universal language, but light can also be intelligent and responsive. Like all forms of public art, light art brings us back to forgotten spaces and introduces new ways of talking to each other, to communicate, something that is really missing in today's world. No idea is stupid, no idea is naive, and no idea is impossible. Sometimes, all it takes is to view things in different perspectives, and you'll be amazed to see what paths they light up.